To invest or not to invest? That is the question when it comes to crypto. And now we're looking at some crypto literacy and why it's so important. Before getting involved in this, our next guest thinks the stakes are much higher when it comes to crypto. Joining us now is Preet Banerjee, founder of Your Money Degree. Preet, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, for crypto, how much higher is it the risk when it comes to just stocks? I mean, we already look at the stock market sometimes as a bit of a casino. How much worse is it for crypto?
Well, Bitcoin, as an example, being the most popular cryptocurrency, is incredibly volatile, compared to a traditional stock and bond portfolio. So, if you go to a financial advisor and they ask you to fill out a risk profile questionnaire, something that would be off the charts aggressive would be something like a 100% stock portfolio. So if you would imagine that would be a 10 out of 10 on traditional risk scales, Bitcoin would be somewhere around 25. It would literally be off the charts. If you went to an advisor, say, yeah, I want to put 100% of my portfolio into Bitcoin. I mean, the chief legal officer, compliance officer, they would be calling you saying, are you sure you want to do that? That's how risky it is compared to traditional investments.
Hi, Preet. Good morning. One of the questions I had is we've now had a couple of these cycles of crypto. There's pre-COVID, the post-COVID cycle. I feel like we're in a different cycle now. But one of the things that starts to happen in these cycles is there's new coins, new protocols, new projects that gets adopted. And so what would you suggest people, or what would be resources that people can use to understand these different layers and protocols? And I think most people would be familiar, with Bitcoin at this point, but even Ethereum, Ripple, all of those, and the thousands probably now down. How do you think is the best way for people to sort of differentiate the different coins and protocols?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it actually comes to the central question when it comes to investing about, not in investing in things that you don't know. So it is important to develop, crypto literacy, even if you're not going to invest in cryptocurrencies of any form. And learning about crypto takes an incredible amount of time. There was a survey developed by some researchers tried to measure, what is the level of cryptocurrency knowledge out there, and the scores were horrific. According to this survey that was developed, the average level of knowledge on a score of 100 was 41. And even more shocking was that 15% of respondents, taken from a sample representative of the general population, 15% couldn't get a single question correct about the basics of cryptocurrency. So it takes a lot of time and research if you want to invest. And even if you do invest, there's a lot of market strategists, people who give advice on portfolio construction, who suggest that at most people should be putting 1 or 2% exposure to cryptocurrencies in their portfolio, unless you truly are a subject matter expert, which is incredibly rare.
I was going to ask about what percentage. With that, what are some of the things you're looking for when it comes to putting your money somewhere?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm actually looking for people to be a lot more aware of the scams involved with crypto. And here's why I say that. I have personally been inundated this last week with emails from people saying, hey, I saw this ad on name your favorite social media platform, saying that you have partnered, me personally, have partnered with Prime Minister Mark Carney to create a wealth shield to protect people from crypto scams. So the reason that I am now part of these scams is because I put out, a little Instagram reel warning people about the Mark Carney Bitcoin scam. And this was something that has been going around, luring people, pretending there's a deep fake video of the Prime Minister promoting Bitcoin. And a lot of people got scammed. And so I tried to raise awareness of that. And now, because scammers are so sophisticated, they're now using my likeness and saying that we've teamed up to create something to thwart these scams, which is in itself a scam. So my core message to a lot of people is, because I hear about this all the time, I hear more about people getting scammed and losing money from crypto than I do people who properly put it into a portfolio. If you do want to put it into a portfolio, it should be part of an investment policy statement that takes into account the incredible volatile nature of it. And a very small allocation is what you would start at if you need to start. And a lot of people, again, if you don't understand it, you don't need to invest in it to be a successful investor.
One other thing that we've seen in this last few years is increasing institutional adoption, whether that's through the larger ETFs for either Bitcoin or Ethereum. You're also seeing institutional adoption become much more normal or sort of normalized than they would have been 5 years ago. So what are you seeing in terms of that as a theme going forward? And then on top of that, as you just touched on, there seems like a regulatory hornet's nest for these scams going on. And how do you think the regulators are managing through this, or are they able to in any way at all?
Yeah, it's a great question. With respect to institutional adoption, this is completely antithetical to all the early evangelicals about cryptocurrency who wanted everything to be decentralized without oversight. And I think what we've seen is because so many people get burned when there's a gap between the access, so a lot of people have access to it 24/7, and the knowledge. There's a huge gap there. And that basically leads to two things: people being taken advantage of, and bad actors coming to the forefront to take advantage of this gap. And so on one hand, with institutional adoption, you get some kind of validation. You're going away from the first principles of what cryptocurrency was all about in the first place. But if it is going to be part of the investing ecosystem, then that's sort of a necessary step, because people do want oversight. They do want the ability to have recourse, and there needs to be some heightened level of regulation. What's really changed a lot in the last couple of years, everyone thought that with this new administration in the United States, this was going to more further legitimize cryptocurrency as a whole, because they were very cryptocurrency forward. But the level of scams have increased. And, if you have the president of the United States going on and encouraging people to invest in his own coin, then when people see a deep fake of the Canadian prime minister touting Bitcoin, which was completely fake, is a scam, that also gives those scams a sense of legitimacy to people who don't know any better. So it's a very tough thing to police, and very tough thing to regulate.
Okay, we have to wrap it up there, Preet, but thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Preet Banerjee is founder of Your Money Degree.